Adam here from the Walser Automotive Group, and what I want to do today is take you on a test drive. So next to me here, I have a 2025 Hyundai IONIQ 6. So we'll look at the interior, exterior, some of the trim level specifics, then go for a spin around, see what it's like out on the road. Okay, so we're behind the wheel of the IONIQ 6. This is the SE long range with the 18-inch wheels. Now it does make a difference depending on which trim level you're looking at. It goes from about 240 to 340 miles of range, depending on which trim level, battery, and option you select. Now there is a few different options. Obviously this is going to be the long range, so this one totaled with the 18-inch wheels, you're looking at about a 319 mile range. The most you can get would be an SE rear wheel drive. That would go a little over 340 miles, and that again would be the 18-inch wheels with the long range battery. Now, the base 6 makes about 149 horsepower, and that would be looking at the electric motor powering just the rear wheels. You can go up to the dual motor, that's going to go up to 320 horsepower, so that gets quite a significant bump over the base model. Now, the SEL and the Limited only come with the larger battery pack, so that again is one important note to make there. There is a dual motor all-wheel drive setup depending on which trim level you're looking at. Again, for us today, we're out here in the winter, so we figured the all-wheel drive long range would be the one for us. So, now that we got some of the tricky stuff out of the way, let's talk about the fun stuff. I've got my phone here, as we usually do, and I've got a USB cable down here, and I can plug this in, and that's going to give me Apple CarPlay, as well you can do Android Auto. Now, what's great about that, Google Maps, Spotify, text messaging, all that's going to be built right into the infotainment screen here. Makes it really easy when you're on the go, not to be messing with your phone. Now, there is also USB-C charging in here, so that is pretty convenient as well. And if you want to keep it wireless, you can just keep the Bluetooth or audio streaming going that way. But for now, before we dig into it too much more, let's put it in drive, go for a spin around. So I have to admit, I'm a pretty big fan of the IONIQ 5, especially the IONIQ 5N. That is a fun way to spend an afternoon getting behind the wheel of that car, but I really like the design language on the IONIQ 6. It does share a lot with the 5 platform. Obviously, if you get behind the wheel here, you do immediately notice that. Now, like I said, some of the tricky stuff is the mile, the range, which battery pack. It depends on really what you're looking for, what you want out of the vehicle. Prices also vary depending on which trim level or which way you go, so that is also a factor to consider there as well. But from behind the wheel in the driver's seat here, it's pretty cool. Now again, this is the long range with the dual motor and the all-wheel drive. So with the 319 mile range, that's pretty impressive. And with level 1 or level 2 charging, there's a lot of ways to get that done, and it makes it pretty convenient whether it's at home or you're on the go to go from about 10 to 80% in not that long. Now from the driver's seat, we've got two 12.3-inch displays. The one on the left is going to be our digital gauge cluster. So there's a little button on the steering wheel you can click to go through. There's about 4 different menus in there, and that would show you most of your pertinent information, whether that's the range, which level of drive or kind of eye pedal you're in, and then if you change it over, you can keep track of the all-wheel drive or your tire pressures, which is always good for the Minnesota winters. Then on the other side, like I said, I've got the Apple CarPlay hooked up there. It's awesome. The screen responsiveness is great. It's one of the better ones out right now. If you swipe your finger across, there's pretty much no lag on that screen, and that is something I can absolutely appreciate there. You will also have a backup camera built into this screen. So whether you put it in reverse, it does have rear parking sensors on the SE, or I can click the little button down here on the dash when I'm stopped, trying to see what's going on around me. Maybe the kids left some stuff in the driveway. That is pretty convenient as well. So let's jump out on the road here. We'll put our foot down. The electric cars are fun. That instant torque that you get from these makes it feel so fast. Again, 320 horsepower would be a ton if you were looking at something even 5 or 10 years ago. So with this power instantly delivered through the all-wheel drive, it's more than enough to get you merged out into traffic, jumping out onto the highway. I love how much fun it is in these electric cars because it just feels like you're driving an RC car on the road. You put your foot down and it immediately goes. And then if you want, you can put it down into the sport drive mode, and that somehow even feels faster. Yes, it's going to eat up your battery, but if you're having a little bit of fun, it might be worth it. Now, it is important to note that with the different drive modes, if I go from eco to normal to sport, it's about a 12 or 14 mile range difference. So if you want to get the best possible range, driving in the eco mode, keeping your foot out of the go pedal might be the best way to do that. Another funny thing down on the pedals, you actually get a plus and a minus symbol physically on the pedals, which I thought is kind of a funny Hyundai thing. It's just cool little stuff like that that makes these electric cars fun. Now, another thing is the design language of this vehicle. I love those pixel style headlights. Some of that trim kind of comes into the interior with that pixel design. Out back, it looks cool as well. And this is just a very sharp looking vehicle. It looks more to me almost like one of the German vehicles than it does almost one of the Korean vehicles, if that makes sense. It's got a really unique road presence to it. I love this color. I think it's called Ultimate Red. And with the 18-inch wheels, it does look really cool. Now there's a bunch of different colors you can choose from, whether that's the matte paint or the regular paint. You can do one of these IONIQ 6s or IONIQ 5s to be pretty cool looking. Now, the SE in the driver's seat here, I am nice and toasty. This has heated cloth seats, and what I like about the heated cloth seats is that they heat up really fast in the winter, and then in the summertime they don't get quite as hot like the black leather that you can get in here. So that is pretty nice as well. I think I almost have to turn the heated seat down because it is pretty toasty, and it's only about 10 or 12 degrees today, so that is pretty great. Plus, you can pair this with the remote start, so you can actually fire it up and it will warm up for you, which is pretty cool because there's no emissions, so you can even start it and warm it up in your garage if you want. Now let's talk about some of the safety features. So we've got blind spot monitoring in this model. You'll also have the adaptive cruise control system. So I'm out here on the road, I can set that to turn it on, and then it will actually keep 3, 2, or 1 car length distance ahead of me. If you're eating up some highway miles, it's a pretty cool safety feature that also makes it very convenient when you're on the go. Now, the rear leg room was crazy. It was almost laughable when I hopped in the vehicle. Where I'm driving from here comfortably, I felt like I was in a small limo. It's nuts. You could actually, I'm 6'1". Where I'm driving here, there was a ton of room in the back seat. It's really comfortable. There's USB-C charging back there as well. So that's also great. If you got the kids, they can keep everything charged up and be happy when you're on the go. And then trunk space, it's a little smaller, mostly like a common sedan would be, but if you need it, there's a little extra space. You can pull the handle, knock the seats down if you find yourself buying something a little larger than you expected. But I think for the most part, you could probably put a couple sets of golf clubs, a couple airline bags back there if you had the roller bags, and it would easily fit. Now back to the driver's seat here. So you've got a dual zone climate control, and then you've got some touch sensitive buttons. What I did like is when I had my gloves on because it's freezing today, the buttons still worked. So that is also a big thing, because when it's cold up here in Minnesota for about 4 or 5 months out of the year, you got gloves on, you don't have to take them off to change the climate control, or you can even click climate and then adjust it in the infotainment screen if you'd like. So overall, the ride and drive, they did a really good job. They added some sound deadening, I think, between the carpet in the vehicle, so it's really quiet in here, especially the electric. You get a little bit of that hum. I don't know if you'll pick it up on camera, but when you're kind of slowing down, you get a little bit of noise sometimes, but for the most part, it's so quiet in here. It was windy this morning, and you didn't get a lot of noise coming into the cabin. That's, again, one of the great things about these EVs. They pick up, they get a ton of torque and speed right away, and they're quiet, so it's more relaxing when you're behind the wheel. I mean, this would be a very, very easy daily drivable vehicle. You could just hop in, especially with over 300 miles of range. I mean, there's no real difficulty to these vehicles. The only thing that might be confusing for people right away is where the gear selector is, because that frees up all this space for the center console armrest here. So you get a huge storage compartment underneath because they've moved it to a kind of shift-by-wire system. So you just click the gear and you're in drive, or you click it back for reverse. But that gives you a ton of room, whether you've got, I don't know, your gloves, your purse, any bags you want to throw down there. It conveniently does make up quite a bit of space. But I mean, the steering feel in here, it's really hard to explain on camera, but it's not really super light, but it's the perfect amount of heaviness that I'd want from the driver's seat. The suspension is very compliant and smooth. I mean, going over some speed bumps here, it's not brutal, nothing's clanking around. It's just very well built feeling, and you have a 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty, which also covers the 10-year, 100,000 mile battery warranty. So there's a lot to like here. I think if you're in the market, whether you're shopping for Tesla or cross-shopping any of the other EVs, I think the style, all the technology and everything you get, so this one MSRP is gonna be around $48,000. Currently, there's some discounts offered, whether that's federal EV rebates or just discounts on the vehicle, so it can be bought well back of that. And I think for the money, there's a lot to like in the new Hyundai IONIQ 6, and I think you definitely gotta get out, take one for a spin, see what you think. Now, that was just a quick look and drive at the 2025 Hyundai IONIQ 6. Now, if you have any other questions or you'd like to schedule a test drive, you can visit us online at walser.com or stop by anytime. We'd be more than happy to help. Thanks again for watching.